January 26, 1986, the fighters of National Resistance Army succeeded and entered into the city to take power from Apollo Milton Obote. On 28 January 1986, Yoweri Kaguta Museveni was sworn in at Parliament in the Kampala, and he was given power to rule as Uganda's 9th president since Uganda's independence.
Nobody should think that what is happening today or what has been happening in the last few days is a mere change of guards.
The things he promised that Ugandans shouldn't think that this was a mere change, rather a fundamental change in Uganda's politics.
I think this is a fundamental change in the politics of our country. Because in Africa we have seen so much change that change has become meaningless. It's no longer change but merely turmoil. This group getting rid of that group and that group doing worse than the group it got rid of. Now, please, I do not count us in that category of people.
International news like New York Times wrote that a rebel has been sworn in as the leader of Uganda. However, Ugandans who subscribed to him was in an image of a savior. Eyewitnesses still praise that day. Roads were painted red, yellow, black, representing the Ugandan flag. Hundreds were on the roadways because of happiness. Whistles and xylophones were all over the country. Wine drinkers took over dosage. Many took chicken stew to celebrate the hope of the leadership that was better than the worst they had expressed. The ones with one eye then saw the ones who had two eyes. As Museveni was swearing in, people were passing over dead bodies in some parts of the country since the war had just ended, and there was no arrangement for burials yet. Though the fear was much, Ugandans had to pass over dead bodies to come and celebrate the swearing in of Museveni, but history shows that the happiness was generating from the pain Ugandan had over the years, like harshness of security operatives, abductions, arrests without prosecutions and justice, army stealing people's properties without being questioned, racism, dictatorship, and many other things that contradicts human rights. Though many understood Museveni when he had just gone to the bush in Luwero, he had spent a very long time in Uganda's and Tanzania politics, right away from the time he was a student at the University of Dar es Salaam in Tanzania, where he studied political science. There, he started a coup of University Students' African Revolutionary Front, USAF, and later, these students joined Frelimo, where Museveni got military training. In 1971 to 1973, Museveni and his colleagues created a gang that was said to be for rebels that was called Front for National Salvation from NASA. In Tanzania, Museveni with Julius Nyerere, he was brought to the war that was meant to remove Amin. And in 1980, Museveni returned to Uganda and he rooted in the western part of the country, and then he started a coup that was called Movement for Struggle of Political Rights, whereas the many were calling it Popular Resistance Army, which was formed with the agenda of rigging votes. International broadcaster Wikipedia indicates that the coup of the Popular Resistance Army joined Uganda freedom fighters, a coup for Yusuf Lule, and they formed National Resistance Army, the army that had to fight until they succeeded and later redeemed themselves to National Resistance Movement.
Resistance movement, I think, is a clear-headed movement with clear objectives and with good membership. I think it makes a very big difference from the situation in which we were, where the very people in power were they themselves encouraging evil instead of trying to combat evil. I think this is a slightly different situation.
The first election during Museveni's leadership was in 1996, and he won Paul Kawanga Semogere with 75%. He immediately brought UPE, where 4 children were picked from each family to access free education to fight ignorance. The second election was in 2001, where Museveni stood against his friend and private doctor, Dr. Kizza Besigye. Museveni won this election with 69%. He promised to leave power, and more so, the constitution was restricting to only 2 terms. However, the constitution was immediately changed and term limits were removed in 2005. In 2006, Museveni once more stood and won with 59%. In 2011, Museveni won with 68%, and in 2016 he won at 61%. December 2017, the articles in the Constitution that elaborated that a person who exceeds 75% of years of age has no right to seek presidential office were removed, and the Constitution was changed. Before being re-elected, Museveni changed his name and he added Tibuhaburwa. The elections that brought Museveni to the current term was won at 58%, and it was conducted in January 2021. From 2001 to date, Museveni's win has always been challenged in the Supreme Court, and the judges have always found out that elections always had holes and there is no clear reason on to why the win is cancelled. In the last elections, Kyagulanyi Ssentamu Robert Bobi Wine, one of the 10 people who faced Museveni in elections, he decided to withdraw his case from the court since he wasn't expecting justice. Foreign countries praise Museveni for the effort he has put in to fight HIV/AIDS, modifying education systems, transportation, more so tarmac roads, and many other things. Lately, most of Ugandans are seeing Museveni as a person who doesn't stick on his words, for the promises he has made over time shortly denies them and his government doing exactly what was happening in the 1980s before he went to the bush to capture power. I'm Samuel Mbusa, Carlton Scovia Nakamia, BBS Terefina Eyaffe.